Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. It's good to have you here. This is Eric. You're listening to GardenFork Radio. It's my eclectic DIY show. Today, my friend Nicole is here, and we are going to talk about clearing your drain, electric cars, Teslas, painting fences, and if we have time, some DIY questions. So welcome, Nicole.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I met you because you have got me to change all sorts of things. I'm trying to be more scheduled, and you talked about these things that get in your way, and you had a really good phrase for them that they're keeping you from accomplishing something. And we are now using Squadcast thanks to you instead of Skype. So this is a much higher end recording. It does cost, there is a fee every year. So if you'd like to become a patron and help pay for this, because it's kind of pricey, but I don't have to get all my guests to download Skype. So I just send them a link. It's a web page. They open it up, they turn on their microphone, and we get to talk. So that's all thanks to you, Nicole.
Well, I was wondering, so is it recording, is it saving it in the cloud so you can't tell us anymore that you didn't post the podcast because you left it up in New York?
Yes, exactly. So like Rick and I just recorded a show about our concerns about Facebook. And, you know, of course, it was Rick and Eric doing a deep downer dive. But that is sitting on my computer in Brooklyn. And I ran up to the house here because these are the last warm days and I got a bunch of firewood to cut in the yard to do. But anyway, it'll keep it in the cloud and I can pull it down and edit it on a laptop on a bus if I wanted to. So that's awesome. That's thanks to you.
Well, I wish I'd been on the Eric and Rick convo because I have unfriended all of my friends and I'm only using Facebook for my family biking group.
Right.
And a couple local groups, but that's it. Because I don't want to delete it totally because I do have a community that I've built there, but I also don't want to, Anyway, I look forward to that podcast.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about my drain. So,
well, wait, hold on.
Oh, no, sorry.
We did a show, Rick and I did a show about hurricane preparation and my neighbor's basement flooding, and I guess you heard that show.
I heard that show and took it to heart, and I was listening to the show in line at Costco, and I look over, and there's a van with a plumber sign on the side of his van. And so sitting there, I paused the show. I call this guy. I was like, hey, I'm 2 lanes over. I have a drain. And I was hoping you could come and clear it. And he was like, oh, okay. He seemed a little stunned. But isn't that the point of the advertising? Yes. Okay. So he said, tell me a little more. I told him, I thought that our drain went under the house, from the back of the house. So our house sits on a corner. The back wall has a drain in the basement, right down the little steps. And so when you described what happened to your neighbors, I was like, that could happen here. So we have lived here 8 years, hadn't ever done that. And he's like, so has it flooded? And I was like, no, it hasn't flooded. But my friend said that I should clean this out prophylactically. And he said, okay. So I thought my drain went under the house, all the way under the entire house to the front street.
To the sewer line.
To the sewer line. So he comes and, he's down there doing his thing. And then he comes up and he's got a green clump of grass in his hand. And he's like, I've got bad news. Whenever I get green grass whenever I get anything out of the line like this, it means that there's a break in the line. And I was like, well, it's green grass. So that means it had access to the sun.
Yeah.
And so he kind of like looks at me and I look at him and then we look at the drain and I realize that this drain drains underground. Our house is up high.
Yep.
And so it drains under our yard to the sidewalk. It just goes straight onto the sidewalk.
Oh, it goes to what's called daylight. That in drainage terms, your drain drains to daylight, in other words, because you are on a hill and your basement is probably higher than the sidewalk, right?
Yes.
So they just pitch the pipe down and dump it onto the sidewalk, which then dumps into the street and goes into the storm sewer.
So that was a really happy moment for me to figure that out.
That's really good because your your drain in your basement has less chance of getting mucked up with tree roots, because tree roots like the nitrogen in what drains from your toilets, basically.
Oh.
So instead of just, rainwater that got into your basement, the tree roots seek out nitrogen for, nutrients, basically.
I think I've read an article about that where somehow the fungus in the tree, somebody will know this, the fungus that are
on the tree root
are seeking the nitrogen.
Yeah, the mycorrhizae, I think they're called. Yeah, it's all a big biosphere, a biome.
Yeah. Well, so I was really happy about that, but I expected him to not charge me as much.
Oh, no.
No, it was the same. $275.
But that's peace of mind. I mean,
and we had never done it. We had never done it. So it was, I learned something about the house, and it was just totally win-win, especially because my backyard has these rocks. You know about the river rocks.
Yes.
You all know about my river rocks.
And that you were transported in IKEA bags.
It's right next to the stairs where they are, and it's an attractive nuisance. Children love to throw my rocks into that drain.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I was very pleased. Anyway, so thank you. That was really great.
That's fantastic. In the plumber's defense, he has, or she, I'm sorry, fixed costs, and that's why when they walk in the door, the meter starts cranking. They have a base rate, and they have to pay commercial taxes. They have to pay taxes and insurance on their vehicles.
Right.
I ran a small contracting business for a long time, and it is incredibly expensive, even to be what I call a one-man band.
Yeah, and I'm a small business owner too, so
yes,
that's the other. Yeah, I totally get that. Well, and that's why I brought up Will when we were doing the pre-show.
Will from the Weekend Homestead and the Bear Paw Resort up in Northwest Wisconsin.
So a lot of times we don't hear from him in the summer, and he's like, it's because I'm really busy. And the fall is my super busy time. So, before I was talking to you and after I'm talking to you, I'm going to edit photos and deal with photos. And this is when I make my money. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I looked at your photography website. I think that's great. I love, it just seems like people, they don't look posed at all. They just look very kind of in their own moment. And it's just, you capture that.
Yeah, it's one of my philosophies is I don't do Photoshop because I want to capture reality because, the kids are going to know.
Yeah. Or, can you really fix my teeth in the photo?
Yeah. No, go fix them in real life. I'll be right here. Close your mouth. Okay, so are we good there? Should we talk about my electric car?
Right, but just to go back to the drain for a minute, when you call a plumber, you're going to call them and say, I need you to come snake my drain. Or can you, a preventive maintenance way, snake my drain because I don't want it to flood in one of these hurricanes. So if you say snake the drain, they know what you're talking about.
I should have used that language because I was like, clean out my drain. It's like some lady calling about her drain. But what it's done, so that's good.
Right. Hey, are you shopping locally? I am shopping locally as much as possible as well. If there's something that you need and you can't find it in your local stores and you're going to go on Amazon, would you consider using the GardenFork Amazon link? It's in what's called an affiliate link. We get a finder's fee for sending you to Amazon. It helps pay the bills at the podcast world here. It is amazon.com/shop/GardenFork. That's amazon.com/shop/GardenFork. So electric cars, we've been talking about electric cars. One of my best friends has one. And the last time we talked about it with you and I, Nicole, I said, if you use the 110 volt, two-prong plug-in-the-wall charger, it only charges about 25 miles overnight. And I got quite the email from Julia, who is a longtime supporter of GardenFork. She's been one of the first patrons that signed up. She's always emailing me with really helpful and insightful information. She is a doctor in the northwest corner of the country. Super great. And she's going to be on the show to talk about her electric car. But it depends on the electric car as to how much charge you get with that 110 volt plug-in. My buddy has an Audi e-tron, which is a very large, heavy car with a very large battery. And he said that's why he only gets 25 miles overnight. So now we can go on about electric cars.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I had heard Rick talking about his Prius Prime, and a couple other people. Like, I have a friend who has a Tesla. He let me drive it. That was really fun. And I had it in my back. Oh, the other person I follow, or kind of used to follow, is Mr. Money Mustache. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay, so he's like one of these retire early guys. You save all your money until you're 30 and then you retire. But he was really into the Nissan Leaf because a lot of them have been leased and then Nissan sells them, and you can get a used Nissan Leaf for 10 grand.
Wow.
Which that seemed great to me. 10 grand. But it was really hard to find any, which everybody knows there's this shortage of everything in America, apparently. Supply chain issues. And so we just wanted to drive a Leaf before we bought it.
Yeah, that would help.
All right. The stars aligned a couple weekends ago. One kid was at something, the other kid was at something, and it was an all-day thing. So I called around to a bunch of car dealers. Now, oddly, a lot of car dealerships are not open on Sunday.
Wow.
I guess New Jersey still has the blue laws, like that came up, but even like in Virginia, which is DC, doesn't have any new car dealerships anymore. But we do have used car dealerships. But so anyway, we ended up driving out to the Fairfax, which is about an hour away, because they had one. And we drove it, and we were both like, oh, we love it. This is great. We'll buy this. And I guess 2 other people were coming in to look at the car that day.
So that's a completely electric car.
Entirely electric. You can get it in the base model or the bigger battery. So the base battery will go 169 miles on a full charge. The Plus will go something like 250. We got the base model because we're using it to take kids to school and back.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. And it's the first new car I've ever bought. So, but the reason we bought a new car, usually when you drive a car off the lot, my 7th grade teacher explained this to us, it loses value and it makes no sense to buy a new car. Except that right now there's a federal tax credit for electric cars of $7,500.
Yes.
So our car was 33 grand, but we will get 7,500 back, which basically made it as much as a used one.
Wow.
So we're kind of like, okay.
That was kind of the litmus test for me as well. First of all, with the solar on our roof, the price was almost 70% in tax rebates with federal, state, and city, and we are in a landmark historic district. And then with the car, I was looking at Teslas, and there's a couple of reasons I didn't want to get one, but one of them was Tesla has used up their rebate quota.
Yes.
And the new other companies like Nissan and Volkswagen and Subaru, these companies, they haven't used up their quota of tax. I guess I don't know how many thousands of cars they can sell with the rebate on it, but it's really it's a real deal changer.
Yeah, now the only hurdle we had was my youngest wouldn't ride in it for the first week.
Wow.
He was worried that it meant that we were going to sell our Highlander hybrid. And so, yeah, the kid doesn't like change. He's come around yesterday on the way home from school. He's like, I'm getting used to, we let him name it. We named it Little Bob Leafy.
I love that. And the beauty of the electric car is most people seem to be wrapped up in the total miles they can drive with a battery. But your average commute to the grocery store or to the mall or whatever, or to work is totally doable with the current electric cars.
Well, yeah, and so it looks like it's going to take us, drive about 169 miles a week, or 160, it looks like, based on 2 weeks of driving. And Brent's office has free charging. So he can drive it into work, charge it all day, and then we're good for the next week.
That's very interesting. More and more companies and office complexes are having chargers. Charge America is installing a lot of them. And also, there are Tesla chargers in a lot of places. You can use the level 1 and level 2 Tesla chargers with any car. The superchargers are Tesla's not allowing. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, there's some proprietary.
There's some proprietary thing going on there, but you have to buy a adapter cable, which is like $150. But you can use the slower Tesla chargers. And also there's a car dealer. There's a Nissan dealer down the road here, and they have a 2-car charger that anyone can use. You don't have to be a Nissan customer.
Oh, that's nice.
And you just pay with your credit card or using your phone, like a payment app on your phone. So that's becoming more and more ubiquitous. I was watching some review videos of electric cars. Some of them are fantastic and some of them are clickbait. And I got a clickbait one. It's like the big problem with this particular car. And they were complaining about the Charge America chargers. When you plug it into this car, it doesn't auto recognize the car. And I'm like, he goes, so I have to use the app to tell it. And I'm like, that's your complaint?
That's your big problem?
That's the basis of your video? So I was like, come on. And the other beauty of the electric cars is that some of them do have some software glitches, but you don't have to take it into the dealer to get it updated. It's just the Wi-Fi in your house updates the software overnight. When they fix something or make another feature available, it just pops onto your screen. So.
And that's really, so ours comes with an app that you use and you can update everything. We have had one problem with the car, and it's a known problem from my research on the internet, is that the CarPlay sometimes has interference, and I don't know what the Bluetooth works fine, so I can still call people and listen to my podcasts, but the CarPlay isn't a very elegant interface. I don't know if you've driven a car with that.
No, I haven't. I have 12-year-old cars.
The Nissan Malibu that we drove across the country when we had COVID had this interface, and I became very used to it.
The 41-hour drive.
Yes. So the other pro tip is this app called PlugShare. And it is a map app, and it shows you where all of the chargers are around you. And you can say, I'm looking for level 1, or I'm looking for level 2, or level 3. And I did charge it once with a level 3 at the Hyattsville police station. They have a level 3 charger. And it was $14, and it took a half an hour. And I think I had to charge from I probably did half a battery with that, half a full battery or whatever. I'm not sure how to say
That's great. I love it. And it's just, you're going to see chargers everywhere. There's several companies that are building out the infrastructure. They're being financed. Actually, Volkswagen is invested in Charge America. They put $2 billion in when they got spanked for that diesel emission thing.
Yeah.
The fine went to installing electric chargers across the United States.
Well, the infrastructure bill that Congress has been working on is supposed to have funding for more chargers everywhere and possibly a $12,000 tax credit.
That's great. I mean, we're in trouble. Climate crisis is happening. It's incredibly warm here for October. The sea level in New York City is rising, and I just think we need to move away from coal and petroleum. So, good on us for.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I have never bought a new car either, and we're shopping now. We've been saving money for like 4 years to buy an electric car, and all of a sudden, there's a lot more choices out there, and we'll probably get one next year. But I guess it's kind of one of the ultimate things of being an adult is buying a new car. So I'm going to experience that soon.
You're going to level up. I did have a weird experience though. Yesterday I was listening to an online conference, and there was a woman who looked like she had on the background cover thing, so you could just see her head.
Oh, to blur it out, yeah.
Blur it out. Hey, whatever. Lots of people do that. My background, isn't great. So, and then you would hear the blinker in her car.
Ah,
And you were like, what is going on? She was doing her presentation from a self-driving Tesla.
wow. You're not supposed to do that.
No, it was so stressful. I left the conference. I couldn't watch it. I was just like, something's going to happen.
You would at least think to pull over into the mall parking lot to do
And
that.
then I was like, well, apparently people need to like make that clear when they're asking presenters, can you be in a stationary parked position? Really? Aren't we adults? Anyway, I was shocked.
Wow. So cool. So you can update us as you go. Oh, have you used the plug in the wall 110 volt charger with the car?
I haven't yet. I feel like, so like I said, we have a corner lot. We do have a plug-in, and I do have the extension cord. I need to get a cover, like the thing the strip you put over a cable to make sure people don't trip on it.
Right.
But I'm contemplating it. But so far, we haven't really needed to. I do have an electrician coming on the 1st to tell me how much it would be to put in the 220. Is that right?
Yeah, 220, probably a 40 or 50 amp circuit breaker.
So I don't know if we'll be able to do that. When we did change out our circuit breaker when we first moved in. And they asked us if we wanted to do the heavy up, and we said no. That's fine. So 8 years later, I don't know.
The electrician will, if you just give them the specs of what you're doing and what you want, they'll tell you.
Yeah, and it's the same company that did the box that's going to come and tell us. So,
sweet.
It's a free estimate. We do have a garage, but that's for my bikes. And I'm not willing to give that up.
Hey there. I bet you think I'm going to talk about Patreon or using the GardenFork Amazon link. No, I'm going to ask you to do something for someone else. And you don't know who that person is. You're just going to go do this thing, and then you have no control over who it benefits, but it'll benefit more than one person. And that is to consider donating blood at a local Red Cross blood drive or at a local hospital. I just gave blood on Tuesday, and that was at Memorial Sloan Kettering in Manhattan. They're treating a friend of mine for cancer. They're keeping him alive, and I'm like, this is my thank you to you guys, is here's my blood. So I have a rare blood type, so it's kind of like, oh, I should share this blood with people. And then I realized that everyone's blood is important. It allows the rare blood type to go just to the people that really need it, and then the more popular blood types, is that a word? Your average every person needs some blood could just have the blood from, the A blood or the B blood. I have O negative blood, which is 7% of the country has, I think. And yet it is a universal donor blood. So anyone can take my blood. And I'm told that it goes into the neonatal intensive care or natal intensive care, neonic. If you do decide to make an appointment to donate, the best thing you can do to prepare is to drink extra water the 3 days before your appointment. So like 2 big glasses of water each day, 3 days in a row before your appointment. So I'd love it if you became a patron. That'd be great. If you want to use a affiliate link. What I'd love even more is if you thought about donating blood. There are some restrictions to keep the blood supply really clean. So you may not be, what's the word? Qualified to give blood? That's the wrong word. But anyway, redcrossblood.org, or go to your local hospital's website, see if they have a blood donation section. Either way, there you go. Back to the show. All right, so let's change gears here. Next on our list is questions about painting a fence.
Well, I guess, so we have a white picket fence. It's so cliche.
Of course you do.
It's very cute. And it clearly needs to be painted. I borrowed a power washer from a friend, but it was just before the cicadas came.
Oh.
And so then I was worried that I was going to kill the cicadas. And then I had found a guy who would power wash it for me. I guess that's maybe my first question. I should power wash it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the paint flaking?
The paint is flaking in some areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you let it dry.
Okay. And then let it dry. And then could I like make the children help me and we just do it by hand?
Oh, totally. Get they're called mini rollers. Instead of a big 9-inch roller, it's like a 4-inch roller. And they're great for, the flat side of the picket, but you can also get that between, there's a gap in usually the mini roller can fit in there, so you don't have to use the brush. You can get very creative with a mini roller. I have painted whole rooms with a mini roller because you can cut corners with it. It just has a little plastic almost like it just has this plastic little tip in the end. And so it won't run into the walls. I love mini rollers, as you can tell.
Wow, who knew? Okay.
And get a thicker nap roller than you think you need, like at least a 3/8, even I would think a 1/2 inch, because it glops on the paint a little more, but it puts more paint on there. And don't cheap out on the outdoor paint you're going to buy. Don't buy an indoor-outdoor paint. Go to the paint department or the paint store and tell them exactly what you're doing and say, I don't want to cheap out on the paint.
Okay.
Because if you cheap out on the paint, you're going to have to paint it in half the time again.
Well, we have painted it once. Yeah, 4 years ago. So
the other thing people need to realize is the pressure washing does not remove all the loose paint. You will have to go over it with, I have a tool, it's called a 5-in-1. You can get it in the paint department or sometimes the tool department. It is a scraper, a can opener, has a little pick on the side. It has a roller cleaner. You can use the handle end as a hammer, but that is great for just going over everything and scraping off anything that's loose. The more loose stuff you get off, the better. The pressure washer does a lot of that, but you have to go over it by hand. The preparation is key. Laying on the paint is easy. But yeah, get the kids involved and just get them to wear some of those nitrile gloves. And latex paint is, it'll wash off. It's not the end of the world. Okay.
Well, because a friend of mine had a spray painter. What are those called?
Yeah. There's different units, but the ones you can buy at the large stores, it's like a spray gun with a little tank on the back, and it plugs into usually 110 volts. Some are battery powered. They will lay on a thin coat, and you'll have to go back and recoat it if you want. But they do get into the little corners and hard to get places much easier. It's like a spray gun, a can of spray paint that has an infinite amount of paint. But you will have to do several coats, whereas with a roller or a brush, you're laying on a much thicker coat at once.
Okay. All right. And then what about the temperature? I mean, obviously, it's still really warm here. I mean, is there any...
I wouldn't do it below 50 degrees.
Okay.
And I would keep the paint inside until you're going to paint.
Okay. All right.
Wow, look at all that information you just got.
This is very helpful.
Yeah. So we have one more thing. We have something about squeaky stairs.
Okay, so our house was built in 1908. It was a kid house, one of the first kid houses from the Chicago Wrecking Company. I
just heard a podcast on 99% Invisible about prefab houses and how they started in the early 20th century.
Yeah, so how fun, right?
Yeah.
When they flipped our house, they replaced some of the stairs. They didn't replace the other ones. But so they still have some square nails in them.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this podcast that I follow, or Instagram, Rademacher Reviver.
Yes.
Revival, yeah. And so he just worked on his stairs, and he tightened them from underneath. And then he showed how you could tighten them from above, like just put new screws in. And do you have any thoughts about that?
No, but you should try it. As long as the wood is still in good shape. If the wood is separated or if the wood is starting to get what I call punky or soft, the screws, I would use screws rather than nails.
Right.
And then nowadays they sell some really high quality construction screws that don't need a pilot hole. You don't need to pre-drill a hole. They have like a little cutting bit built into them. And if you have a portable impact hammer drill, it's really handy to have. I have a Bosch set, a drill driver set, and they're like $120 for the two of them. They go on sale, and it's just like, and it goes in. So heavy duty screws and a drill driver is ideal. Or if you have a hammer drill is almost overkill, but it will work.
Okay. And then the only thing I'm concerned about is I can't see underneath the stairs. So I don't exactly know. I mean, it has to have a piece in the middle, right?
You mean a support in the middle?
Right. Yeah. Underneath.
Not necessarily. No. A lot of them just have stair runners on either side, and then the steps just straddle that. The steps are usually made out of oak. At least
I think they are oak.
Yeah.
So then maybe I could just put a screw at the front of the step, like that would go into is that called the riser?
Right. You would do it from the sides. They have to be drilled back into this because the risers are on each side of the step. The step is in the middle, and in each side is the riser, which is that piece of wood that goes up at an angle.
Okay.
It's hard to describe. If there's probably a couple, there's more than one YouTube video about how to do this.
Well, I had asked a friend about it, and they probably just didn't want to help me because they were like, oh, it's really hard to make them stop squeaking. Oh.
It just depends. It could, if it's sometimes you need to shim them from the underneath, but if you can throw in some screws, I mean, it takes 10 minutes to try.
Right. Just a little bit quieter would be great. Although, the boys are going to be bigger, and then maybe I want the noise. See what they're doing.
Where are you? Wow, cool. We have talked for a half hour, and I'm all excited about the car.
Yeah.
And the fact that your drain goes to daylight is even better. So you don't have to worry about your wine cellar flooding.
Right. My wine cellar. If you could see my basement. Oh, I could be on I could make a YouTube video about that. How I overhauled my basement.
Before and after.
Yep.
It's a very popular YouTube trope.
Oh my gosh. I love it. How's that canoe?
Oh, it's even better. I haven't sent you the most recent photos, but I cut scarf joints in the PVC lumber that I'm using for the gunnels or gunwales. And my friend Matt, who is an engineer, came over last week, and we talked about how to attach them to the top of the fiberglass and caulk them in. I ordered the caulk, the marine grade caulk from Loctite, who makes the PL polyurethane glues, if anyone knows those. Liquid nails, in other words.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that is going to happen this week, and I'm trying to get Matt to come over and help me with that. And then we will put the seats in, and we will be ready to go.
All right. Time's ticking here. Weather's going to change.
I know. Ice is going to form on the pond. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. radio@gardenfork.tv. If you have any comments, you can find Nicole at NicoleHarkin.com, correct?
That's right.
Wow. Thanks, everyone. Go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Garden Fork Radio is produced in Brooklyn, New York by Garden Fork Media, LLC. Our executive producer is Jimmy Gooch. You can learn more about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes at hollowbooks.com. The music for our show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.